So I've been on Tinder for like 2 days. I hate it.
This man almost unalived me on our date.
His card declines.
This man stole my identity.
I already know I'm not seeing this guy again.
So I matched with this girl on Tinder once and her bio said looking for someone to pretend to be her friend.
Somehow I'm back with yet another bad date story.
Why is dating so traumatic here?
When have Tinder dates ever ended well? No, seriously. When it comes to Tinder, 90% of the time they do not end well. Like, when have you ever met a happy couple that claims, oh yeah, we met on Tinder? Go ahead, I'll wait. Exactly. Now, I'm not gonna deny that there is a small percentage of people that actually find their partners on there, and kudos to you if you're that person. But most of the time, these dates don't even go past the first stage of talking. So if I can't get you off these apps and save you, then these 5 stories I've compiled for you definitely will. Welcome back to another one of my videos where we like to dive into some juicy storytelling. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe for more. And without further ado, let's dive into this first story. Okay, so this first girl's story is kind of crazy because she ended up agreeing to going into a stranger's car. Let's see what she has to say.
Allow me to tell you about an interesting date I went on with a guy who wanted a heck of a lot more than I bargained for. I've not been on a date in well over a year and a half. Also with that, I've never had a relationship, but that does not mean that I have not had some interesting date stories, okay? So sit back, relax, and allow me to tell you why I'm still single. There's so many interesting ones, I don't know where to start. You know what? I've nicknamed them all, so let's begin with Dan. The dogging man. So let me take you back to 2020. I was 18, he was 22, and this was literally like a few days before we went into lockdown, which is crazy. We met each other on Tinder, and this is the one and only, the first and last time I've ever gone on a Tinder date, never again. Oh, I hate dating apps as it is, and that is definitely not a dating app, okay? That is a booty call app, and I learned that pretty quickly on this date. Well, technically I learned it after the date. Allow me to explain. So like I said, we met on Tinder, we messaged for like a couple of days, and I already knew of who he was, so that's the only reason I went on this date, okay? That's why dating apps terrify me. I don't like meeting up with strangers. So I already knew of him, so I was like, okay, let's do it. At the time, I'd only ever been on dates that were like, take me to Nando's or whatever, you know what I mean? And he was like, oh, do you want to go for a drink? And I was like, wow, that's really mature. That's really cool. Okay, let's go for a drink. So he picked me up a couple days later, and we went to a really shit bar, honestly, in my hometown. It's shocking. I can't even believe I've actually been in there. And that's not me trying to sound like I'm grateful for he took me. Like, it was absolutely fine. I don't care where we go as long as we're like connecting, but just the bar has like a reputation of being quite tragic. Anyway, so we went to this bar and, you know, got a couple of drinks and everything, and we were actually getting on really, really well. Like, we was in there for a good like hour and a half, I want to say. Talked about all the usual stuff, you know, family, likes, dislikes and everything. Like I said, we got on really, really well. And then a conversation that we landed upon, which at the time I genuinely thought was quite normal because it was very heavily talked about. I was still like just fresh out of college at that point. We talked about like virginity and stuff like that, and, you know, obviously I was like, well, I am very much still a virgin, okay, which is still true to this day, I'll be honest with you. He was like, oh, I really respect you for that. You've got a lot of self-respect for that, which boys always say to me, and I'm like, are you basically saying that girls who aren't like don't have respect for themselves? Because that's not the message to send. Please don't say that, girlies. You're absolutely fine. Anyway, this is context, okay? So he knows this. So we have a couple more drinks, and then he's like, oh, do you want to, like, it's getting kind of late, should we leave? And I was like, yeah, honestly, because this place is a bit crap. Anyway, so we walk out, and he's like, oh, do you want to maybe, like, go for a drive? By this point, I think it's, like, 9:30 at night. Like I said, we're still in my hometown, so I still feel pretty safe. He was like, do you want to go for a drive? And I was like, oh, I know what drive means. I was like, huh, okay. I was still in my very much phase of, I really don't know how to say no. Like, I find it really, really awkward. You know what I still do now, honestly? I'm like, oh, I don't want to say no and sound weird, but I was like, okay, let's go for a drive. And here's where it all goes downhill. Oh, my goodness. We get in his car, we're driving for about 10 minutes or whatever, still chatting on the way, and he takes me to a very strange location, okay? He takes me to our local leisure centre, like our local swimming pool's car park. Like I said, it's, what, 9:30 at night? We're not going swimming. I don't know why there's quite a few cars in the car park. I wasn't expecting that, and also don't know why he took me there. But at the time I was like, oh, maybe he just wanted to go to a secluded place, free to just sort of leave your car and just park up for a bit and just have a chat. Okay, fair enough. Maybe he just thought of this off the top of his head and was like, well, yeah, we'll go there. Spoiler alert. That's not the case. So we park up and we're talking for, I want to say at least like another half an hour. And when I say we're talking, I mean I am, okay? Because from this point on, he barely answered any questions about himself. He kept directing the conversation back towards me and was like, no, I want to hear more about you. And I was like, look, respectfully, okay, I can't build a connection with you if I don't know anything about you, because it feels like I'm doing all the talking here. Also, it was a very dimly lit car park, and I think the light from the lamppost was on me, but not on him, so he was in the dark. It just felt a bit ominous, you know, he wasn't saying anything. Then, now, this is a very key detail, okay? Quite funny, but also I'm so glad that I have sisters that are willing to do this, or even think to do this without me asking them, okay? I hadn't realised they'd been blowing up my phone, you know, for the past sort of half an hour anyway, while I was in this location, saying like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. I just sort of kept looking at the phone going, oh, just leave me alone, I'll text you after. I'll tell you what happened like after. They were just eager to know about the date. At this point, I rarely went on any. At this point, we're sitting in the car having a chat, and I see a car drive past in front. Bear in mind, no other cars are moving, okay? This car came into the car park, drove past our car, and circled around and then went back out. Looked at the number plate, and I was like, that looks like my sister's car. I was fairly certain that that was my sister's number plate and my sister's car, and I was like, I wonder what she's doing here. Maybe just checking up on me. A little bit weird, a bit overprotective. I thought nothing of it, and I was like, you know what, I'll just ask when I get home. Kept talking for a little bit more, and then I think the section that we were in of the car park was closing, so we moved to another section. At this point, it was like 11 o'clock at night, and like I said, we'd been talking for the past couple hours, or at least I had, so I wasn't really feeling much anymore, and I was like, I don't know about this, you know. And I was like, honestly, we don't have to move to a different spot. I was like, oh, do you know what, I've actually got to be up early in the morning. I'm going on like a little, you know, trip with my mum and my sisters. Like, maybe you could drop me home. He was like, no, let's just stay out a little bit longer. Let's chat for a little bit more. I love talking to you. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So we moved on to a different spot in the car park, and I carried on talking. Bear in mind that when I go on first dates, or I'm around men in general, I get very nervous, very anxious. I feel very nauseous, you know, it's just not a very good situation. And I end up probably spewing a lot of crap because I'm not really thinking about what's coming out of my mouth. So I'd love to know what I filled the time with, quite honestly. So it's building, right? I know that a kiss or something is looming. I know it's coming, all right. He offers me gum and everything, and he starts leaning in and fidgeting in his seat. Bear in mind, he still hasn't really said anything, okay? The conversation's all been about me. He leans in and he goes, do you want to know what I think? Sorry. Ick, I hate that. I absolutely hate that. TikTokers made me hate that face. But fast forward, okay, we did a little kissy and had like a few little kisses. One thing you should probably know about me is that I find kissing very, very awkward. I still do. I think it's just because I maybe haven't found the right person to kiss yet or something. But either way, every time I've done it, I've just felt like, oh, this is really awkward. But I've always been told that I'm quite good. So I take grace in that, but I don't know what to do. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so we had a few kisses and I was like, do you know what? This is not. And he was trying to make advances like he wanted to go a bit further. And I was like, whoa, hold your horses, bucko. That is not going to happen tonight. This is a very bizarre statement to come out of my mouth. Okay, I shouldn't have to say this, but I eventually convinced him to drive me home at like, what, midnight? You should never have to convince a guy to drop you home from a date. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. So it drops me home, and for some prior context as well, when he picked me up like a few doors down from mine. Fair enough, you wouldn't know the exact house, that's all right. But on the way back, he also then dropped me at like the end of my road, which is like a couple minutes walk up to my house. You know, it's pitch black, it's midnight. And I was like, oh, you can park outside my house, like it's fine. Like no one's awake or whatever, if that's what you're worried about. And he was like, no, it's better this way. What are you talking about? On the way back from the car park that he took me to, he kept going, oh wow, that got really intense, didn't it? That got really heated. And I was thinking, I don't know if we're in the same car, mate, but I won't feel what you're feeling. Maybe I have that effect on people. I don't know, but I weren't feeling it. For you, maybe, not for me. So I go in my house, and my mum and my sister are literally waiting behind the front door, like, oh my god, are you okay? What happened? And I was like, yeah, it wasn't really that great. And they were like, do you know where he took you? Because they were checking on like Life 360. That's why she obviously followed me in the car park. I was like, yeah, he took me to the swimming pool car park. Like, what on earth? And she went, no, he took you to a popular dogging spot. What? Needless to say, we did no barking of any kind, and he definitely did not get a second date. Thinking about it now, I might be traumatised by that date, honestly, but I did end up going on more.
This is exactly why you don't let a random guy pick you up for the first date. There are so many red flags in this story. Like, first of all, 18 and 22? Like, I know that's legal, but it's still weird because it's two different stages of life. Secondly, if you didn't catch it, at the end of the video, she said that the guy took her to a dogging spot. Do you guys know what a dogging spot is? Dogging is a British term used to describe people going to car parks to do certain activities. In other words, this guy basically wanted to hook up with her, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was his intention from the start. Let's be honest, Tinder is not beating the allegations with this one. Okay, so this next girl ends up going on a date with this guy that turns out to have a girlfriend and gets exposed in 4K in the worst way possible. Let's watch.
Get ready with me while I'll tell you one of my worst Tinder dates ever to this day. Buckle up because we're here for a treat. This is probably gonna be a long video. I met my husband on Tinder also, but this happened like years prior to that. It all started in Peru because I am from Peru. I was just randomly on Tinder and I was like, okay, try to match with someone that looks like, you know, innocent, decent, that they don't look like, you know, I want to murder you kind of vibes. Thought I had it with this guy. Let's name him Mike. He matched with me first, so he was the one sending me the message. And his first message was like, hey, I think you're really pretty. Just saying like how much he loves his family and that he's going to university. And honestly, very much like green flags of him of just like being like, I'm looking for something long term, his past relationship and this and that. And he had good stuff to say about his past relationship. He was like, you know what, we broke up because we had like different views on stuff, but we're still friends to this day and I wish her the best. I was like, okay, period. Like he is good, you know. I didn't think much of it, so I was like, okay, let's meet up. I don't like going to the movies for the first date ever, but he really wanted to go to the movies. I think it was Avengers and he really wanted to see Avengers, and I was like, shoot, I want to see it too, so let's go watch it and then let's go like for dinner later. We ended up meeting there at the movies, and you know, I said hi to him. He looked really good. He was like, oh, you're so pretty, and he was just really kind and nice. Making our way up to the line to buy the tickets because we didn't previously buy them. We were just like, oh, let's go and see if there's a show in and maybe we can get something to eat in the meantime or something like that. So we go in line and he's like, oh, so I'll buy my ticket and you buy yours. I don't really care if a guy is like, I'll pay my half and you pay your half. Like, I don't mind going half and half with a guy. I don't really think that there's anything serious about that. But we get to actually pay it and his card declines. So he's like, hey, can you pay for me? I'll just like send you the money. I wire you that money or whatever. He was just gonna get on his phone and figure it all out. And I was like, okay, no worries, no rush. And we go to the snack area and he's like, okay, I was gonna buy popcorn and drinks for us, but since my card is not going through, can you just buy the stuff and I'll just send you the money the same way I will send you the money for the tickets. And I was like, sure, fine, whatever. But this man, you know, I get he was hungry, but I was like, well, we're planning on eating dinner after. He ordered 2 hot dogs, 1 nacho, and then a big popcorn bucket. He got like 2 drinks, and it was just like a big bill. I remember it being like more than 100, and I was just like, god damn. I'm literally forgetting to do my makeup, and I'm just telling this story. So we're watching the movie, and I'm really like into it because it's Avengers, and I love anything Avengers, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so good. Like a cinematic moment right here. He just wants to kiss me out of the side, and I'm like, bro, we haven't even talked that much. I'm like, I just want to watch my movie. That should have been like my first, well, actually not my second or third red flag, but I just didn't think much of it. And I didn't kiss him back because I do not kiss on a first date. I don't like that. So I backed off from that almost kiss and I told him, hey, like, you know, right now I don't think it's the time. And he was like, sure, like, you know, I respect that, which was actually nice of him, you know, like some other guys are like kind of pushy on that. And I'm like, no. I thought that because he got a lot of popcorn and all that, I thought that we were going to share it, but no, he just wanted it all for himself. And I was like, okay, sure, maybe he's hungry, he didn't eat, whatever. Maybe he likes popcorn, which I do too. If you know me, I love popcorn. So I was grieving that popcorn. By the time the movie's done, I'm like, okay, cool. Now we're gonna go eat or something like that. We're gonna go have dinner. I was hungry. I didn't have a single bite of that popcorn because he didn't let me because he was just like, this is mine, you know? And I was hungry. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's go now for like food. I kid you not. I say that. And then 1 minute later, his phone rings, and apparently it's like some of his best friends that something happened to his best friend and he needed to leave immediately and go to the hospital or something like that. He told me basically that there was some kind of emergency. I don't exactly remember what the heck he was yapping about, but he was like, I have to go, please forgive me, like this and that. And I was like, sure. So a couple days later, one of my girlfriends texts me and she's like, hey, we're going to dance to this disco place. Do you want to come? And I was like, sure, you know what? I haven't heard back from him. He's probably busy. So it is a Friday night. I'm going to that disco thingy and I'm with my friends and we go into security and all that. And the very first thing I want to do is get my drink. And guess who I see with another girl and with his so-called friend that was super sick? Mike. He was right there. Because I was with a friend, I update her of everything that's going on and she's like, there is absolutely no way. You have to tell him like, hey, what the f. So he sees me, right? And he kind of like nods his friend and I approach him. I'm like, hey Mike, like what are you doing here? I didn't know you were coming here. I thought you were gonna be with, let's call him Fernando, with Fernando because he's still recovering, but Fernando's here, so what's going on? There's a girl right there as well. Let's call this girl Maria, okay? Maria is right there. Mike pulls me aside. He's like, hey, let me talk to you, like, a little bit more in private. He's like, oh, Maria, she's not anyone, like, special. Like, she is Fernando's kind of, like, fling and this and that. And I was like, okay, but why is she dancing with you like that? Like, very, very close together. And he's like, oh, like, it's just a dance. Don't think much of it. And for whatever reason, I think it was the drink that was getting to me. I believed him. I do not know how I thought he was not lying to me after this, but it just gets better and better. So a couple of days go by and he texts me and he's like, hey, I want to see you. I miss you, whatever. And he's like telling me about this restaurant he wants to take me in. This restaurant is super duper expensive. Maybe he wants to make it up for not sending me the money because he did not send me the money off the tickets and also the popcorn. We're ordering our food, right? And guess who walks in the restaurant? His family, his uncle, aunt, and cousins and whatever, and they see him and immediately go, oh Mike, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in so long. And then his uncle comes and he's like, hey Mike, so how's Maria? We haven't seen her since the last gathering. Are you guys going okay? Mind you, Maria was Fernando's fling. His aunt comes back and she's like, oh Maria, we love her for you. She is so kind. You guys were so sweet together and you guys make the best couple. Excuse me, what? Best what? And I was like, no, so you're saying Maria is with Fernando, or are you saying that Maria is with him, with Mike? And she is like, oh no, Mike has been together with Maria since like 5 years ago. 5 years ago. Yeah, and the whole family knows her, and they're very serious because their families have talked together about marriage. And have you not met Maria? And I'm like, oh no, I met her. I met Maria. She's really pretty. It got up really fast. But before I left the place, I made sure I ordered some good food. And like when I say good food, because I knew I was not gonna get any of my money back because I was gonna instantly get blocked or whatever. I made sure I order like 2 plates of the most expensive thing ever as well in that menu. That was one of the worst Tinder situationships I had. There's more dates that I had that didn't happen on Tinder that I gotta break down to you besties because it gets really, really juicy.
Oh my god. There's no way this is real, right? You're telling me this man demanded for her to pay for his food and then proceeded not to share with her. Girl, stand up. That in itself could be another subject entirely. But what really gets me is the fact that he has the audacity to be on a dating app when he has a literal girlfriend. I'm telling you guys, you have to be careful of whoever you're talking to on these apps because you could be talking to someone's husband. You'd be surprised at the number of people in committed relations on these apps. But it's got to be karma that his own family routed him out too. And I'm glad that he got that because that's exactly what he deserves. So girls, moral of the story, be careful. Okay, so this next story is basically about this girl that got treated like a sneaky link.
Get ready with me while I tell you guys about how these men have been plaguing me, and I'm tired of it. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, you know that I be going on these random Tinder and Hinge dates that I definitely shouldn't be going on. But I've actually had some decent experiences on these apps of like meeting people and actually dating them. So one time I go on this Tinder date and we decide that we're just gonna go get food and like hang out. We go get food and he literally picks a spot that like I can't eat at. If you don't know, I'm allergic to gluten, which is basically everything. So I went and it was fine. Mind you, I typically don't talk to guys that go to college just because I'm not in school, so our schedules don't really match up, and so it's just like completely 2 different lifestyles, if that makes sense. We go back to his dorm room to like drink and like meet some of his friends. And honestly, it was really fun. It was my first time at a college campus and his friend was like DJing in the dorm room and like I was having a good time. It was all fun and games until we went back to his dorm room so we could meet like his dorm mates and everything. And his roommate walks in with like a group of girls. Like I guess they were gonna all drink and like it's college, whatever. And my date sprints out the room, drags me in the bathroom and sprints and runs down the stairs and leaves me. In the middle of like a huge college campus where like I've never been on a college campus. I don't know how to get out. I don't even know where my car is, babe. And hid for like maybe what felt like 10 minutes. And I was stuck in the hallway talking to like a random guy that was just like studying. It was like this like kid, he was really nice. Cause I was trying to find out like, dang, if I'm stuck here, how am I gonna leave? Like, where did you even go? So it turned out that he hooked up with that girl and he just didn't want her to see me. But it was giving baby of a girlfriend type vibe. Like, cause why else are you running? Like, you could have just been like, oh, that's awkward, but like, oh well. Like, babe, it's your fault you brought me into the room. Anyways, these men really exhaust me. And I'm Delulu because I did keep talking to him for like probably 2 more weeks. Yeah, I'm not the one make up, but I have to hurry up, so I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye!
You literally can't make this stuff up. Talk about messy and straight up disrespectful. Like, how is it her fault that she's in the same room as your supposed girlfriend? To run away like that is just a coward move in my opinion. I swear, it's not all men, but it's always men. I'm telling you, these apps are corrupting our minds. So this next story is about how this girl pretty much got catfished and got put into an uncomfortable situation.
Hi, my name is Taylor, and I'm going to tell you about one of my Tinder horror stories. So anyway, I was 18 and I just kind of gotten on Tinder and I was talking to this guy. I talked for a while and he was like, do you want to go out for drinks? And I was like, sure, sounds good. Go to this drink place. I get there first. He says he's approaching me. I look up. The man that is approaching me looks nothing like his pictures, like vaguely, but also not really at all. So he also looked way, way older than what he looked like. And I was like, oh, red flag. Anyway, get to the date and it was horrible. We were talking and it was so awkward. We had almost nothing in common. It just, the conversation wasn't flowing. It was noticeably awkward for both of us. And I was 18. I didn't know any better. I should have just gotten up and said, hey, I'm going to go now. But I was kind of just dropping vague hints like, okay, well, it's getting late. I should go. And he'd be like, no, let me like buy you another drink. So I stayed. Anyway, gets towards the end of the night. I go to leave and he was like, oh, do you want to go for a walk on like the boardwalk? Like because we were on a beach. And I should have said no, but I did. And I went for a walk. And it was still noticeably awkward at this point. Anyway, we're walking and mans goes to grab my hand. And anybody who knows me, even at the age of 18, gross. I don't like it. So he goes to do that. I like pulled my hand away and it was like really awkward. And I was like, oh, don't do that, please. And we're walking and we get to the end of this like boardwalk area and mans like turns to me and goes to kiss me. And I was like, no. And I dodged it and it was so awkward. And I'm pretty sure I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Went to the bathroom, like text my best friend everything that was happening. She was like, you gotta get out of there. Anyway, go back out and I was like, yo, my best friend's dying. I have to go home right now. And he was like, okay, well, let me drive you home. And I should have said no, but I was like, after a bit of arguing, he ended up taking me home, get in his car. I get into his passenger seat and I look at the door and I'm like, brethren, where is your door handle? And he was like, oh, sorry, this car only opens from the outside. And I was like, you could have told me that before I got in your car. Anyway, drops me off. Get out the car, goes in for another kiss, and I was like, dude, like, don't. Anyway, I go back inside. Mans has the audacity. He texts me when I get inside. He was like, hey, Taylor, look, it was really fun hanging out with you, but I think this isn't going to work out between us. I think you're a fun girl, but I think, I don't think you're right for me. So we're just going to leave it there. And I was like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. If that's the call that you want to make, sure thing, broski. And then I went inside, and now I know how to leave dates that I don't want to be on anymore.
This guy really rejected himself on her behalf. Like, let's be honest, she was the one that was not feeling him. Weaving 2 kisses is crazy. I would honestly just like jump out of the car at that point or find a way to get out because that's so awkward. Like, don't worry girl, we know the problem wasn't you. But seriously, what did he think he would get out of catfishing her? Did he think that she'd just magically fall in love with him? Like, I don't get it. But yeah, this was not a good date. Like at all. Okay, so this last one is on a lighter note, but let's just say that this date could win an Oscar for being the most awkward date imaginable.
This is part 1 of me retelling my worst Tinder date stories. Prefacing that I haven't been on that many bad dates, but these are the worst of the worst. Our first unfortunate candidate goes by the name Nervous Nelly, and we went to an expensive Italian cocktail bar. If you know me, you know that I don't like anything expensive, so that was already the beginning of his downfall. When I tell you he sat across from the table looking at me like this the entire night, I mean, he legitimately sat across from the table and stared at me the entire night. I'm normally quite shy, but as soon as he stared at me with horror in his eyes, I felt like the most confident person in the room. And because he was so scared, he couldn't think of anything to say, so I decided to play a fun game whereby I order a very expensive cocktail off the menu and have him try it. And because I'm the spawn of Satan, I made sure it was really, really nasty. By the end of the second date, I pretty much told him it was never going to happen again, and he told me to e-transfer him the amount of the cocktail that I made him drink. Like for part 2.
You know what? Good for her. I get having nervous jitters and stuff, but what's the point of asking me out if you're not even going to do anything? What did you think was going to happen? And the only time this man ever talks in this story is when he's asking for his money back. Be so for real. But anyways, guys, that's all the stories I have for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other stories you'd like me to cover next time. Thanks so much for watching once again. This is your host, Kittens Collection, signing out.